Hello and welcome to the Sidebar, presented by True Crime News, taking you inside the courtrooms of high-profile and notorious cases from across the country. I'm your host, Joshua Ritter. I'm a criminal defense lawyer based in Los Angeles and previously an LA County prosecutor for nearly a decade. You can find me on all social platforms at Joshua Ritter ESQ or at joshuaritter.com. We are recording this on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. In this week's episode, alleged assassin Luigi Mangione is back in court as his defense seeks to exclude key pieces of evidence ahead of trial. Plus, a father charged with torture and child abuse after he and his 3 children went missing on a perilous hike. But first, a man charged with his wife's murder attempts to convince a jury that he didn't kill her, though he admittedly disposed of her body and misled police. Today, we are joined by Marie Pereira, an attorney, a legal analyst that you can catch on Court TV, NBC, Fox, and many other outlets. Marie, welcome back. It's so good to see you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I love being on with you.
Oh, you're so fantastic. Before we started recording, we were talking about how this doesn't seem like work. I mean, we enjoy talking about these cases so much, and it's so nice to chat with you. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
These are some good ones this week, too. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. The first is out of Dedham, Massachusetts, where defense attorneys for a man accused of killing his wife face a tall order after the man admitted to lying to police and disposing of the missing woman's body while denying causing her death. Brian Walsh is facing trial for the slaying of Anna Walsh, with prosecutors claiming the man murdered the woman and disposed of her remains as their tumultuous relationship was falling apart. Walsh was the sole beneficiary of Anna's $2.7 million life insurance policy and had allegedly learned that his wife was having an affair before her disappearance. While prosecutors maintain that Walsh's motive is clear, his defense alleges that things are not as simple as they appear. Walsh claims that Anna died a sudden and unexplained death and that the man reacted with panic and fear, hoping to protect his children from the horror of her death. This unnatural reaction allegedly caused Walsh to Google, quote, best ways to dispose of a body and special detergents to get away with murder. But the defense maintains the research doesn't prove a desire to kill Anna, whose remains have still not been found. Complicating this case further is the presence of State Trooper Michael Proctor, a key investigator in Anna's disappearance. It remains to be seen if the disgraced trooper's presence will loom as large as it did in Karen Reed's 2 trials, but ultimately it will be up to the jury to determine how Anna met her untimely end and if Walsh was responsible. All right, Marie, a lot to unravel with this one. But first, a lot of us were waiting around to hear this defense opening statement, to hear what their strategy was going to be. How were they going to explain that Anna died? What do you make of this kind of idea that they don't have an explanation? He says that he went to go to bed. She was lying in bed and dead. And that's all he knows. Do you think that's a winning strategy?
No, it's not. It's what I call an NTL strategy, nothing to lose. Because at the end of the day, the Google searches did him in.
Yeah.
So, yesterday I was thinking, how does a criminal defense attorney, with as much experience as his attorneys have, let a client convince them to go with that after seeing all of the Google text and searches, right? And knowing the background of the alleged affair. I understand, you have to defend your client with tenacity and everything you got, but you also have to make it make sense in the level of audacity they have after all of those Google searches to try to say he only did the searches because he panicked and he knew they would blame him, but the searches discuss murder. That's the problem. It didn't say how to revive someone who went upstairs a few minutes ago while I was doing the dishes and we just had a nice party and she stopped breathing. How do I do CPR on my wife? Call 911. All of that is problematic. These are terrible facts. I would have never chosen that type of defense. I would have gone with passion, heat of passion. That's what I would have done. That is ridiculous.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm surprised by that too. That you would have thought they gave up so much already. They're already going to say he lied. They're already
Yes.
going to say he disposed of her body.
Mhm.
Then why not just say, hey, this was a horrific accident that took place in the midst of some horrible argument we were having. But this idea of, I don't know how she died and she just ended up dead. And my first instinct was just to get rid of her body. There's a lot I think that jurors might be able to wrap their heads around, but this is stretching the extent of, I think, what you can get jurors to believe. I'm wondering, though, what if there's a situation where that's just simply what he's telling his attorneys and that's what they're stuck with? If that's what their client's story is, they're going to put him on the stand, don't you think?
I think they have to put him on the stand so that he can explain what happened. But I think the mountain of evidence against him is so humongous.
Yeah.
It is an NTL type defense. What do you have to lose? They may not be offering you a plea. If you plead guilty to the charge, you're facing life in prison without a possibility of parole. So why not just roll a dice and hope that maybe somebody on the jury was cheated on and somebody could empathize with you and you make the victim look like a villain, which is what they're trying to do. Here, this poor man is, according to them, home taking care of 3 little boys. He trusts his wife to go earn the money because something happened in his career that made his money earning capacity diminish, right? And he's doing the right thing. And while she's over there in Washington, she finds herself a guy. She missed I think, Christmas Eve. Evidence, I think, is going to show that she was in Italy with her new man. Make her look like a real bitch. And maybe the jury will just set aside and nullify the law and put aside all of the evidence and feel sorry for him. Is it likely they're going to do that? No, because you have 3 children who are without a mother, and now they're going to be without a father.
That's such the sad part of all these cases that we talk about when it's a husband and wife, is that now you've got these kids who are going to live their whole lives with one parent in prison, the other parent dead. Well, let's try as defense attorneys to figure out if this is the cards they were dealt, right? The facts are the facts. Their client is saying this is what took place. What do you think? And you made the point yourselves that some jurors, maybe 1 or 2, and that's all you need to hang this thing.
Exactly.
What do you think is what does he need to do during his testimony to convince 1 or 2 of those jurors? What would you be expecting, or what would you be trying to tell him if he was your client?
To really convince the jurors that he loved his wife, and to go with the possibility that he didn't know about the affair. So that kills the motive and it diminishes any malice attached to it or premeditation. I didn't know she was having an affair, so I had no reason to want to kill her. She didn't tell me she was having an affair. I didn't know that she spent New Year's Eve with her new man. I found this out after the fact. So for anyone to think that I murdered my wife as my children might have been sleeping and then called the nanny the next day, went out to get tools to dismember her, and this was all a plan, it wasn't. I lost it. I had terrible judgment. I was afraid that if they connected me with it, the boys would lose me, and I disposed of her body, and I shouldn't have. So he needs to tug on their heartstrings and really make them believe there was no knowledge of the affair prior to what happened. And it was just a sad situation. And when I say sad, sudden adult death syndrome. And that's what happened. And they maybe need to bring in an expert to explain what is sad. Okay? It happens to how many people? How likely was it that this could have happened to her? That's what he needs to do to convince the jurors that this could have happened, a person dying from sudden adult death syndrome.
Yeah. Even as you're saying it, though, It seems hard to believe. I think you're absolutely right. They've got a really difficult case ahead of them. And I agree with you. I can't really see this going any other way but south for him. But we will continue to follow that one. It just started. We're only in the first week of testimony, and we will continue to keep you all updated.
Finding a therapist is hard enough, but finding one who actually takes your insurance can be near impossible. That's where most online therapy platforms fall short. Many don't accept insurance at all, which means you're stuck paying full price for an expensive subscription. That's why I like Rula. They do things differently. Rula partners with over 100 insurance plans, so the average copay is just $15 per session. That's real therapy from licensed professionals at a price that actually makes sense. Think about it. If you use insurance to take care of your physical health, why wouldn't you do the same for your mental health? This actually has happened to me a few times. As a freelance worker, my insurance coverage is all over the map. So it's happened to me where I haven't had insurance that my therapist would accept, and I had to pay out of pocket. So I really understand this challenge personally. Other platforms might just match you with the first available provider, but Rula considers your goals, preferences, and background to give you a curated list of licensed in-network therapists who actually fit your needs. No wait lists, no back and forth. You could have an appointment as soon as tomorrow. And Rula doesn't just set you up and leave you hanging. They check in to make sure your care is helping you actually move forward. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that is covered by insurance. Visit rula.com/truecrime to get started. After you sign up, you will be asked how you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know that we sent you. That's Rula, RULA.com/truecrime. You deserve a mental health that works with you, not against your budget.
Let's turn to a case out of Manhattan, New York, where new details surrounding the arrest of Luigi Mangione have come to light after this week's suppression hearings in the high-profile murder case. Mangione was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after a 5-day manhunt in the wake of the shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Attorneys for Mangione are seeking to have evidence barred from trial, including the contents of his backpack, which reportedly included a 3D printed gun and silencer, notebooks, and letters allegedly written by Mangione, along with electronic devices. The defense is also claiming officers failed to read Mangione his Miranda rights, and therefore any statements he made should be tossed. Courtroom observers were shown surveillance footage from the arrest, as well as portions of the body cam video, which will remain sealed until trial is underway. No trial date is set yet for either Mangione's state or federal trials, and the judge's rulings on this evidence could have massive implications as the case moves forward. Marie, walk us through the issues at play here. They're talking about search, and they're also talking about statements. What are the things that the judge is going to be listening for?
The judge is going to start off with a foundation of the Constitution, and the Fourth Amendment says that we should be free of unreasonable search and seizures. So they obviously, in my opinion, they had probable cause to come after him, because it's not like they just ran into a random man with a backpack in a McDonald's. They knew who they were looking for, and someone called in a tip. So when they effectuated the arrest, in my opinion, they had probable cause to arrest him. And once you arrest somebody, a search of their belongings could be a part of that arrest. So while their attorneys are trying to say the police had no right to go through his backpack, I disagree, because once you have your probable cause, and I think that's undeniable here, and you put the person under a lawful arrest, you have the right as police officers to look through their belongings to see if they had a gun, if they're still a danger to the environment, to the police officers. So whatever they find in there, if it turns out to be something that's detrimental to the defendant's case, is not necessarily something that should be suppressed. So that's what the judge has to examine here. Was it lawful for them to detain him and go through his stuff? And did the stuff they find, could you use it against him during the trial?
Yeah, excellent analysis and breakdown of us for that. Now let's get to the Fifth Amendment issues with his statements. They're also saying that they asked him a lot of questions and they were talking to him without providing him with his Miranda rights. Is that an issue here, or do you think there's some other arguments?
That's a big issue. We haven't seen all the evidence. Did they interrogate him with video? And why on earth would a case of such catastrophic nature, like an assassination on a public street in New York City, why would they not read him his Miranda rights? So I don't know exactly what they said during the interrogation. Was it papers they had him sign, or did they orally say to him, you have the right to remain silent? Do you want an attorney? Do you know you don't have to talk to us? And as soon as you tell us you have an attorney, we'll stop talking to you. Do you want to talk to us? You feel comfortable? Are you doing it of your free volition? We don't know all of what was said. We need to see how and if the Miranda rights were delivered. And did he have a clear understanding? Was there coercion? Were there threats? All of that before you and I could say anything. But it would be shocking to me that the police officers and detectives who arrested him and interrogated him would not read him his Miranda rights. If they didn't read it to him and he was unaware adequately, it could suppress the statements. But I just can't believe that they would fuck it up like that. I don't think so.
Let's hope not. An interesting thing about Miranda, though, is it always has to do with the concept of custodial interrogation. So the idea of, one, that somebody's in custody, and two, that they're being interrogated, meaning they're being asked questions in furtherance of an investigation. And many times, like one or both of those have to apply for Miranda to apply, and sometimes, surprisingly, one of them will not apply. You know, somebody might be in custody, they might be handcuffed in the back of a squad car, but they're not being asked questions and they're just volunteering statements. Here, initially, the conversation takes place at this McDonald's, and he is, there's a couple of officers around him. They're wearing badges, they're wearing guns. Do you think that qualifies as custody, though, for a person just sitting at a McDonald's? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it qualifies as custody. Did they put him in cuffs? That's important.
Right.
Did they surround him? Did they say you're not allowed to leave? I think the nature of the environment, the open space of the McDonald's, makes it more like we're having a talk with you. This is an interrogation, but it's not an interrogation after a lawful arrest. But one could argue, you're standing around me with guns. I didn't think that I could leave.
Yeah.
It all depends on how he delivers it once they have that hearing and they talk to him, if they put him on, about his state of mind. How did he feel? Did he feel he was free to leave? Did they have their hands on their guns? How far away were they from him? Did they isolate him from the public? Did they take him to a back room? A lot of what were the conditions? But again, I don't think that any judge is going to suppress anything in this situation. We're going to trial with what they have. I don't think any judge is going to suppress his statements that he made at McDonald's. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a very fact-intensive inquiry being made by the judge here, because it is true. It's kind of this objective bystander standard. Would a person, they don't necessarily have to be in cuffs to feel like their freedom is somehow restricted. I don't know. If I'm sitting in a McDonald's and there's a bunch of cops standing around me with their hands on their guns, asking me questions, maybe I don't feel like I can exactly stand up and walk out. But the other issue, too, is that a lot of these statements they're trying to get into, he was in jail, clearly in custody, but he's just having casual conversations with the guards. And I imagine some of that the judge might let in. It'll be interesting, because I think in this situation, the judge might kind of go statement by statement and split some hairs pretty finely to see what comes in.
I agree.
Yeah, fascinating case. Again, that hearing is continuing all this week, and we will continue to keep an eye on it and keep you updated. Let's move finally to Salt Lake City, Utah. Very fascinating case. A father faces multiple counts after he and his 3 children went missing on a family hike. Micah Smith has been charged with child torture and aggravated child abuse after he and his children were transported to local hospitals following the grave ordeal, with two of the children in critical condition. Smith allegedly planned to take a hike, summit the Boards Folk Trail area at around 9 a.m. before reaching the summit around 6 p.m., making their return descent in the dark amidst fog, mist, and rainy conditions. According to authorities, Smith told responders he was comfortable hiking in the dark without a light despite being unfamiliar with the trail. Videos taken from the incident and sent to Smith's wife indicate the children were uncomfortable and scared with the excursion. In one of the recordings, Smith's 8-year-old daughter allegedly asked her father, quote, "Are we going to freeze to death, Daddy?" To which Smith reportedly responded, "They were almost to the top." Prosecutors claim the case is about emotional and psychological harm, alleging Smith acted in a depraved manner that caused emotional harm. The children are reportedly all stable and recovering after the terrifying incident and will be watching this case closely. What do you make of this one, Marie? What do you think of the project? He's been charged with several felonies in this case. What do you think about this?
I think that he was suffering from some sort of mental illness. And I think that my research for this segment shows that there was a history of mental illness, number one. And I think it was maybe a little bit of an overreach for the DA to charge him with torture.
Yeah.
That to me involves premeditation, malice, and full intent. Was it depraved and reckless type of child abuse? Yes, because they weren't even big kids, right? I think the 8-year-old was maybe one of the oldest ones. It wasn't like, let me take my teenage kids out on a hike. They were little tiny babies who shouldn't have even been outside on a hike like that in the first place. We're not talking about a walk in the park and a little incline. We're talking about expert trails for people who are expert hikers. One thing that came to my mind is, where is their mom? How are you letting this man leave your house? And I'm not trying to victim blame or shame, because she's a victim and so are the children. But where is the adult in the room to say, I know you ain't taking my kids nowhere. It's not happening. Where are you going with the kids?
Yeah.
I think they overcharge.
Yeah.
I think they overcharge. And I think there are a lot of, I'm expecting as this fleshes out, in court, if there's no plea deal or anything like that, that his mental state is going to be very important, and his attorneys better start lining up the experts to explain his lack of adult judgment, impulsivity, that sort of thing. Maybe he was on meds, and see if that could be a mitigator for him if he's convicted. Something.
I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this without getting attacked from our listeners and viewers. And I hope everybody can understand. I'm just for a moment trying to explore this out from a kind of theoretical point of view. I agree with you that if it turns out he had a history of unrest and self-harm, and he was perhaps trying to use the children as a tool and all of that, I completely agree with you. Criminal charges are absolutely appropriate. But I'm also wondering, too, I mean, pushing, parents sometimes push their kids in uncomfortable situations. I'm thinking about my childhood. My father was a Marine. I mean, there were plenty of times we went out and did things that maybe we were uncomfortable with, and maybe was, pushing us physically and past our comfort levels. But I don't think I would ever call it child abuse. And maybe that's not at all what we're dealing with here, but it does seem like we're dealing with a little bit of a slippery slope area where, what he did in and of itself, taking your kids on a hike, is not necessarily abusive or torture or anything else. But if he was doing that to put them in harm's way, I could also understand it. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I see where you're going with this, and I don't think he was doing it to put them in harm's way. That's why I disagreed with the torture charge, because torture is so intentional. It's so full of malice and premeditation. You don't accidentally torture someone, and I don't believe that he had that intent in his heart. Did he have poor judgment? Yes. And circling back to the part where you made that analogy between you and your dad, who was a Marine, I think the age of the kids is the most for lack of a better word, disgusting part.
Yeah,
They were little kids. So what are you trying to teach them? They weren't teenagers. They weren't young men. If your dad said, you know what, Josh, let's go outside and deep dive into something, whatever Marines do, and you were old enough to understand how to work your tank, scuba dive, or whatever it is, right? But if you're like 5 or 6 years old and 2, and you're saying, Daddy, what is this? Then it would be abuse. No. It depends on the age of the children. And from what I read, the children were very, very young. Yeah. That created, to me, the child abuse and depraved indifference, because he should have known. But the torture part, I don't think was an appropriate charge.
Yeah. When I was in the DA's office, we had a phrase that sometimes people are just felony stupid. And that might just be what he was in this case.
I agree. I agree.
We'll continue to keep an eye on it, because the last I heard, too, he was denied bail. He's remaining in custody. They are taking this case very seriously in that jurisdiction. But we will leave it there for now. Marie, that is our show for this week. I can't thank you enough for coming on. Where can people find out more about you?
They can find out more about me. They can watch me on Court TV most Tuesdays from, I believe, 12 to 2 New York time. Fridays 6 to 7, and Wednesdays 2 to 5. They can also look for me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's called...
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I took your advice because we discussed, how to expand myself. And other than coming on fantastic shows like yours, I have Legal Analyst Unscripted. It's on YouTube. And on that, I cover the cases we cover on the networks, and I'm able to talk how I want to talk. And sometimes I'll be talking. So, so it's like an unscripted situation. And awesome. You can also find me on my website, where I address issues with Haitian migrants, and I do free work permits and other immigration applications that they qualify for. And on that platform is Haiti Immigration Project, HIP for short. And I do free work permits and other applications for migrants. So that's me.
Fantastic. I love it. So busy, so fun. Appreciate it again. I'm your host, Josh Ritter. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Joshua Ritter ESQ. And if you want to hear my thoughts and coverage on even more true crime cases, please check out my YouTube channel, Courtroom Confidential. And you can, of course, find all of our Sidebar episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And we want to hear from you. If you've got questions or comments you'd like us to address, please tweet us your questions with the hashtag TCN Sidebar. And thank you for joining us at the True Crime News Sidebar.